Now, some people call me an asshole. I just call myself being real. Whatever your world is yours, it's incumbent upon us to begin to take into account that there is no IQ test to get on the internet, nor is there even an IQ test to be born into the universe, which means there are plenty of incompetent, plenty of, unintelligent individuals being granted access to space. Remember, the universe is made out of three basic constituents. You have space, you have energy, and matter, which are polarities of the same material, same substance. So energy is matter, matter is energy, it's just rates of vibration. And then you have time, the variable of duration, the variable of, measuring matter and energy's movement through said space. So you have space, you have energy, you have time. But what we're here to talk about is how most people don't recognize that you don't need to qualify to enter space. Now, I say this because as we get on the internet, it's very easy to assume that everyone is at, or maybe even perhaps above, one's own level of intelligence. But then I come to realize, after becoming a worldwide figure and a worldwide teacher, that most people are thoroughly mentally ill who have access to the internet. The level of incompetence is becoming quite hard to ignore, and for the intelligent, for the wise, for the sensible, I just need you all to have these messages, because it's very easy to mistake the majority for the true minority. I've always had this issue since I was a child. I've always assumed that people were like myself, and I would always run into these situations and scenarios where I was blindsided by cognitive dissonance. Why don't they get it? Why don't they get it? But then the question becomes, why don't you get it? Whatever your world is yours. We're here to talk about the fact that everyone is not mentally healthy. Everyone is not mentally well. Everyone may be seeming well, but to seem well doesn't mean to be well. And it's been my effort, it's been my desire, it's been my mission to assist as many people in liberating themselves from the afflictions of personal ignorance as possible. And in this, I have been slowly but surely developing a proverbial rhino skin. The rhino skin meaning, at the beginning, you're soft, you don't have the calluses, you don't have the fortitude, so you walk into the world naive and you assume everyone is salvageable, everyone is savable, everyone is teachable, everyone is reachable. But in all actuality, slowly but surely, you realize the 1% will always be the 1%. I'm having a conversation with my grandmother, and in that conversation, I'm talking about the rate of acceleration and inflation of the population. So, for example, in the year 1960, let's say, hypothetically, the population was about 4 billion. 1% of 4 billion, 1% of today's 8 billion. That ratio, that proportion, are two different ratios and proportions. Let's make it a smaller figure. 1% of 8,000, that 1% side by side with that 99%, it looks more proportionate and equal in size. As we get larger in scale, this is for the individuals who can keep up and don't need to catch up. As we get larger in scale, you go from 1% of 8,000 to 1% of 8 billion. That 1%, let's say it's a circle, two circles next to each other, the magnitude and scale of difference is wildly disproportional. So whatever your world is yours, as I say this, we're moving into the future where things are always going to inflate. The universe's natural order is to inflate because the universe has been an ever-dispersing piece of material, ever-dispersing phenomena of energy. on its great expansion. Expansion is dispersion. And as you recognize this, you must recognize that as the population inflates, the concentration remains the same. So the 1% will always be the 1%. The 99% will always be the 99%. The question is, where do you want to find yourself being? It is very easy to fall victim to the subjective narratives that most people try to purport or put forward, but recognize the great gradation between individual and their achievement of particular results and the lack thereof. Prosperity is a sign of intelligence. Poverty is a sign of poor intelligence. So we began this video by speaking about what? We began this video speaking about the IQ. There is no IQ test to get on the internet. There is no IQ test to even be born. So recognizing this, what an intelligent individual must do is never walk into the world assuming that the world in mass is like oneself, but in fact, then begin to identify your own rareness, your own rarity, your own specialty, your own particular unique capacities. YWI, your world is yours, is not for the masses. It is not for the all. So many people believe that they're going to be the savior. I never had a savior complex. I just know that I know how to save myself. And if you're intelligent enough, you'll recognize that no one can save you from yourself but yourself. Now, that doesn't mean that seeking guidance is an unintelligent decision. In fact, not seeking guidance, given that you only have a very finite, short amount of time to figure out this game, and you're running the risk of not figuring it out and not learning the rules, you're racing against time. It would be the wisest decision to consult with those who have arrived. Now, the poorest of people choose to save money, although they say money isn't their chief value. But what they never choose to save is quality of life. Quality of life and quality of existence is all we seek to more than maintain, but to consistently improve upon. So whatever why your world is yours, I no longer live under the delusion of assuming that everyone is salvageable. I no longer live under the delusion that everyone is salvageable. What we must actually recognize is that 99% will always be 99%. What we must always recognize is that 99% will always be 99%. And what we must also recognize is that 1% will always be 1%. And it's not the figure that determines who's included and who's excluded. It's one's own personal decisions and personal aptitudes. A lot of people stress about money, they never stress about their skill. A lot of people stress about money, they never stress about how they will serve the world. Money is a byproduct of one's own service. It's never actually something given simply for no reason. So what do you plan on doing? And who do you plan on being? Now me, plenty of people have become coaches and become internet figures because they saw an opportunity to make money. They saw an opportunity to benefit themselves. But we can all look at Ayman's track record. We could all look at Sheikhy Chic's track record and realize that before this reached its marketable state and its ability to be monetized, he was always as he is now, just worse than he is now. Meaning he is better than ever, more intelligent, more applied, more refined. So whatever you were just, what I want everybody to know is that there is no IQ test to enter the universe. There is no IQ test to even be on the internet. So in recognizing this, understand the plethora of mentally ill individuals who have access to a cell phone, mentally ill individuals who have access to communicating and getting on these platforms, and recognize that everybody's not real. And simply because they can use their larynx and have been conditioned through society and reared to train their Broca's area to communicate what would otherwise be very arbitrary and unintelligible sounds if they weren't conditioned as such, simply because they share that means of sonic communication with you, doesn't necessitate that they actually have the capacity and aptitude, the intelligence necessary, the depth, the superior psyche, which is necessary to actually navigate existence and cultivate the highest level. YWY, your world is yours. Consider the vibrations raised. We will forever be living more intelligently, and we will forever be learning more and more about ourselves and applying ourselves to ourselves. And in becoming intelligent, one must recognize one thing: everyone is not intelligent. So now that we've spoken and made clear ourselves, we've made clear the world, we have to ask you, who do you choose to be? Who will you choose to be among the individuals who have nothing but poor results to show for their efforts? Because everyone is a destination. Everyone has arrived how they have arrived, as they have arrived, based on their own personal guidance. So when you recognize that every individual is a result and is a destination, then you will begin to consider the course of the source of the advice that's being given. Sober, fit, enlightened, and rich, worldwide. Your world is yours. Consider the vibrations raised. Join the Ascendancy. It's a matter of having superior standards. It's a matter of having superior self-worth. When you are no longer able to accept less, you only have the ability to become more. But if you're still willing to accept less, then you'll never be able to be more. So it's simply about recognizing what you're willing to accept. And if you don't have the self-worth, then hey, we can't fix that. We can't fix stupid. We can't fix low self-esteem. But if you're like me, who happen to be born and incarnated in space and time around some individuals who were less intelligent or simply had no work ethic and saw no value in their own lives to be improved and developed upon, yet you need the pathway, you need the guidance, I am here for all. Consider the vibrations raised. Everyone isn't intelligent. The IQ test to get on the internet doesn't exist. The IQ test to even be born into the cosmos doesn't exist. So, existing in the space that is the internet, or existing in the space that is the universe, aka first space, doesn't necessitate intelligence. Keeping this in mind will protect you from suffering the cognitive dissonance that many intelligent people fail to create conciliation amongst themselves with. They walk around baffled as if they don't know that most people don't know, and most people won't know. So protect your mind by being intelligent enough to be intelligent on behalf of the unintelligent, and don't be a person who believes they're intelligent simply by walking around and being confused as to why other people aren't intelligent. I just gave you the answer. The IQ test to be in existence doesn't exist. So existing doesn't necessitate intelligence. Being on the internet or the meta space doesn't necessitate intelligence. Question your own intelligence. Your world is yours.